Well, you clicked on the video and you're going to get my thoughts. Is Kixeye trying to make Bounty as annoying as possible for you? And my theory here is that Kixeye is trying to design Bounty to annoy players so much and make the game so annoying and difficult to play, they just blitz everything. And this would sort of rely on a business model of trying to waste as much time as possible, making things really, really difficult to encourage people to blitz. And blitz costs are very, very high. 18 coins for one target if you happen to get lucky and happen to get the large payout. And as I jump into this, I want to say I'm generally a positive person, generally supportive of most things that happen with the game, but I really just do not like this. There are, of course, other problems we can go into Bounty with the leaderboard prizes and whatnot, but I just want to focus on a few of these here. If you feel I've missed something, you can definitely feel free to let me know, comment this down below. Hopefully they'll look at those and get some ideas of things that are going on. I have a little thought experiment for you. If you wanted to force players to blitz in Battle Pirates and Blitz Bounty, what would you do? Okay, you might make it a really unfavorable points to damage ratio, give everyone a ton of damage for very few points. You might mean that points you get can be stolen by other players. You might mean that there's a limited availability of targets and you can't actually go and hit everything that you want to get the points. You also might make targets that take really long to complete and just artificially extend the time to play the game to make players annoyed and just blitz instead. You might make it difficult to find the target, so they have to spend 10 minutes scrolling the map looking for the one base they can actually do, except they can't find it, get annoyed, and blitz. Sensing a pattern here? You might also make the target payout random. It might sometimes give out a fairly decent payout, sometimes a less than decent payout. And of course, because you can make random numbers, do whatever you want, let's just have a lower payout more often than the higher payout. You might also try and trick them, have a wolf in sheep's clothing, sort of a bait and switch. Okay, what do I mean by all of these? And all of these are things that are actually being done to some extent in the game right now. Starting out with a points to damage ratio. This is my single biggest complaint about Bounty. It's that Kixeye has no idea what they're doing with the points to damage ratio. Or maybe they do, and I just am completely expecting the wrong thing. There are bases that are way, 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 way too hard, especially when we have a pendulum that shifts towards a defense-heavy meta, as we just did with a brand new Badger hole. And it's really hard to beat most bases, at least at the top level. If you happen to beat that base, which in a balanced game would happen 50% of the time, but now it's probably more like 25% of the time, you're only going to get 3,000 points when you need 30,000 for a single limited hole and 18,000 for a single limited armor. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, sure, if you want to give me 2,000 points for a base but make one whole 2,000 points, I'm fine with that. It's the points to damage ratio and also how many points you need to get prizes. So in this current meta, as I'm making this video, you have a 25% chance of actually winning in a decent base. Your payout for that, 3,000 points. And your damage for that's going to be the entire fleet. If I'm taking the entire fleet's damage for 1/10 of one single base, what's the point here? Your points to damage ratio is completely off. And this is largely dependent, the points to damage ratio from Bounty is largely dependent on the state of PvP at that time and how much someone, which all the max tech could theoretically coin things. If we're going to have a really, really heavy defense-heavy meta right now, it's going to be really, really difficult to actually get anything out of this. And this is my single biggest complaint. You could fix nothing else and just tune the points to damage ratio differently. Okay, these next 7 or so, or next ones going to go into, are going to be a little bit different and are going to be focused on more small things Kixeye could change fairly easily without really having any sort of problem. Number 2 is that points can be stolen. Now what I mean by this is in Bounty you have unsecured Bounty and secured Bounty. You go hit a base and half of it is moved directly into your bank, they can't touch it. The other half is moved into your wallet. If someone comes and mugs you, as in beat your base, they can take all of that unsecured Bounty. Although, of course, it changes a little bit. It's not all of that, but you get the point. And if you wanted to have a game where you wanted to have players try and spend things as quickly as possible or go out and do whatever. You'd want and annoy them so they just blitz the event and they're done with it. You'd want points to be able to be stolen, and that's what we have. Now, granted, with the counterpoint, it's not all points in the game, not 100% unsecured. Half of it is still secured. And of course, there should be penalty for getting hit, otherwise people are going to exploit things. But the general player base does not like points being able to be stolen from them. They don't like attackers coming in, going bam, 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 and their base blows up and they lose. They want to keep the points that they got, and they're so hard to get, you want to keep them and spend them that you have anyway. Number 3, limited availability of targets. Here's a little slide that I have drawn up from my Battle Pirates this week, which I've started doing now to help increase communication to the player base. And I'm showing you when the things spawn. Kixeye doesn't even tell you this on their forums. You have to kind of figure it out based on previous times and previous events. But the best things out there, the Kixeye employee bases, only spawn for 48 hours total out of this 5 or 6 day event. So you have a very limited availability of targets. Well, counterpoint to this one is that, of course, you can just go hit player bases, but again, those have really horrible payouts, and almost no low-level players actually do bounty. It's not worth doing that. So the actual good prizes, the good bases that people have, only exist, the things that are worth hitting are only there for 2 days total. And of course, there's a few other things, shipwrecks, golden nexus, and the free bounty drips that do happen. But it's really annoying how we only have the best targets out there for 24 hours and then come back later for 24 hours to force you to just blitz over and get done with the event as quickly as possible, because it's not really worth hitting a lot of stuff other than these Kixeye employee bases. Okay, this is a really big pet peeve of mine. Number 4, lengthy targets. A lot of these Kixeye employee bases, well, all of them actually, and all of your opponent bases, you have to 100% kill them in order to end the battle. Which means if there is a single oil rig sitting on the outside, you have to send one ship around the base the entire time, which takes a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes to actually do that. Just move the oil rig inside so every single player who hits all these bases can save 1 minute per base times however many bases they do in bounty. Move the buildings inside and don't force us to go around the outside of the base so many times. With all the Kixeye employee bases, half of them, a quarter of them, have buildings just way on the outside. Let's just move them inside, or at least touching the land tiles so you can actually kill them from inside, so you don't have to spend an extra 2 minutes to go hit things. It just seems like the only reason to put things on the outside is to force us to spend more time hitting the base. And of course, in normal PvP, I want to do that with my Great Hall stick on the outside so that people have to spend a little more time looking for it and I might win a battle. That's just trying to win a 1 versus 1 battle. Bounty is about having fun and playing Battle Pirates. I want to play Battle Pirates, I want to play Bounty, I don't want to play rim the base for the oil rig. In a very similar standpoint, we have that the targets are not in the locator. I don't want to play scroll the map for 5 minutes to find the one target I actually need. I want to click on the base I want, go to it, and attack it. Simple as that. I don't want to play scroll the map for 5 minutes, refresh, scroll the map for 5 minutes again, because you get really laggy after you're scrolling. It just is really, really annoying. Just stick the Kixeye employee bases in the locator so I can find the things I want to hit. The only reason you wouldn't put those in there is if you wanted to annoy us so much we had to go blitz. Can you tell what I'm getting at here? Yeah. Or you just didn't know that people wanted to hit bases, didn't know that they weren't in there, or wanted people to hit a more variety of bases, but that's not going to happen anyway. Number 6 is a random payout. Why make your targets pay out something that makes sense, like always 3,500 points, when instead you can change it and do whatever you want? 3,000 to 4,000? Guess which one you're going to get 90% of the time? The 3,000 one. 1,500 to 2,500? Guess which one you're going to get 90% of the time? 1,500. 1,000 to 1,400? Guess which one you're getting 90% of the time? That's right, 1,000. Now they do this so there's a chance of getting something higher. Random payouts aren't fun. Like evade, criticals, that stuff is fun in the game in the battle, but I just want to hit one target and know what I'm hitting. Also, on a personal note, it really annoys me how these targets don't just tell you their level on the map. Kixeye Captain, level 119. Kixeye Captain, 120. Kixeye Quartermaster, 112. Just tell us what the levels are on the things. I don't have to mouse over it, click on it, see if it's the base I can hit with the fleet I have. Tell me what the levels are and put them in the locator and give them the same fixed payout. Now, this last problem I have here is that some bases are bait and switch, wolf in sheep's clothing. You'd think that the level 93 is the lowest base out there. That would be the easiest, right? You go and hit it, and guess what? It's the hardest base, one of the hardest bases in the game right now, and you lose. Because it's really difficult, and you're a new player at the tier 9 fleet hitting a tier 10 base. There's no chance you can win. Why not just take 2 minutes of your time developing the game, rename that base from level 93 to level 150. If it's going to be difficult, it should have the highest level. Sure, players like me might understand that level doesn't mean things, but when you have players who are just returning, players who don't spend a ton of time focusing, they hit the easiest base they can. They don't understand what Captain, Quartermaster, Powder Monkey means. They see lowest level, click, oh, I lose instantly, guess I'm not doing bounty. Alright, well, you can tell that I have a few thoughts on many of these things here. I mean, some of these are pretty, convincing evidence to me that this business model of wasting as much time as possible actually exists to encourage blitzing. I don't want to believe this. I've been fairly positive about Kixeye in general, and I want to be supportive of this, but when I see something like this, I've got to call it out. Something's wrong here. You have such high blitz costs, you're forcing people to blitz by doing all these things. What's going on? I mean, the game is so dependent, and bounty and points to damage ratio swing so much based on the meta and overall state at the time, it does not make sense to lose my fleet in a player base for 2,000 bounty. That's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. You don't know what you're doing. Points that can be stolen, the general player base does not like these. And of course, yes, it isn't everything, it's 50%, but my point still stands. Also, having a limited availability of the good targets is super annoying. I just want to play Battle Pirates because it's fun, not because I'm crunched into a time and have to be forced to do this for this short period of time and then go ahead and blitz them anyway. It should be available the entire time. The good target should be available the entire time, or do something better, at least with communicating this to players, and put these times in the forums. And then just move the oil rigs inside the base, or make them operate under normal PvP rules and move your Great Hall inside the base, not sitting on the outside. Why are you doing this, and why are you forcing us to spend another minute or two just hitting the base every single time we hit something? It just seems like the only reason you wouldn't move it is to force players to have a longer time. Or because you don't know that it's a problem, but that's sort of why I'm trying to point this out. Move the oil rigs inside. While you're at it, add targets to the locator. I want to play Battle Pirates, I want to play Bounty, I don't want to play scroll the map for 5 minutes looking for the only target I can hit with the current fleet and the crew that I have on. Put them in the locator, and while you're at it, make the drops just the same standard rate, and put the numbers in the actual name instead of Captain, Quartermaster, Powder Monkey. The average player does not even read forms, let alone know which one's harder, a Powder Monkey, a Quartermaster, or a Captain. And then put the bases, tune them by level. Level 93 should be the easiest, not the hardest one. That sort of makes sense. Level 64 and 70 exist, yeah, but make the 93, if it's going to be that hard of base, rename it to level 150. I'm going to leave you with one question. Comment down below, if you were Kixeye, what would you do? Would you sort of try and keep running with what's happening right now? Or would you do a few of these changes here and try to fix a few of these problems that I identified and others that people are going to identify in the comments? Or just leave it like is and say it's fine. Is Bounty working perfectly, or is it somewhat broken? Well, that's just about all that I've got time for today. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and I know this has not been my normal standard video. It's been a little more ranty, a little more complainy. I generally try to come off as positive, but like I said, when something's wrong, something's wrong. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and this is Derpy signing out, helping you be a better pirate.